You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. We've got another story here about DeSantis. This is really, really sketch, okay? And I got to tell you, I don't have DeSantis derangement syndrome, okay? I don't have DeSantis derangement syndrome. I know it may seem that way because we got all these stories. I am focusing on DeSantis a lot because he's our governor and he's running against Donald Trump. And to my knowledge, as of the moment that I'm talking right now, this could change. It could happen 5 minutes, happen during the show. It could happen after I upload the show. To my knowledge, DeSantis hasn't come out in defense of Donald Trump since he had to go to the courthouse in Miami this week. Have you seen anything, Kathy, about that? No. So, I'm sorry. We got to expose this guy. And there's a story that just came out of the Florida news about Ron DeSantis and his campaign. And this is really sketchy. It's in Floridianpress.com, which is obviously a Florida news site. Those of us who live in Florida, we are Floridians. We call ourselves Floridians, okay? Listen to this. This is the headline, and then we'll go through the story. And you tell me if this was anyone else, would we not be talking about it? $82 million DeSantis PAC transfer appears legal, but seen as shady and unethical. And this is the article. Florida state-level political action committee Empower Parents PAC, which supported Governor Ron DeSantis' 2022 gubernatorial reelection campaign, has raised eyebrows after it took $82.5 million in campaign dollars and transferred the $82.5 million to the DeSantis Never Back Down presidential PAC. Activists and supporters of President Trump see the transfer of funds between the two political action committees as fraudulent fundraising tactics. Now, before we get to that, a little bit more about this, I want to go back to this. See, this gubernatorial PAC, a lot of people donated money to that PAC. That was before we knew that Ron DeSantis was a traitor. That was before he betrayed Trump, remember? So these are people, they really should get their money back. They should refund people their money because a huge chunk of those people, probably the vast majority that donated to that group, probably are pretty ticked off at DeSantis right now like we are. Conservative journalist and Trump for president influencer Laura Loomer, who was recently tangled with DeSantis for president staffer Christina Pushaw on Twitter, tweeted that anyone who donated to DeSantis' 2022 reelection campaign should ask his treasurer for refunds. Isn't that funny? I didn't even read that paragraph before. I only read the first paragraph of this story, and that's in the third paragraph, and so I'm on the same page as Loomer there. Donors who gave Ron DeSantis money for his gubernatorial reelection should ask his treasurer for refunds. This is fraudulent fundraising tactics. This is Loomer talking. DeSantis solicited over $100 million in campaign donations that were left over after his reelection, and now he's using that money to go after President Trump. So think about that. That was before he blew his cover. $82.5 million was just transferred from the gubernatorial committee to his presidential PAC. Beyond shady and unethical, Trump voters who donated to DeSantis in 2022 should file a lawsuit against him for fraudulent fundraising tactics. So Loomer, who is all over this, sent me a text message this morning when I was on the air about Ron DeSantis and something he's doing this weekend. And she did tweet this, Laura Loomer. She sent me a screenshot of her tweet and a text. But if you go to Laura Loomer on Twitter, which is Laura Loomer, listen to this. This is also on DeSantis. She titled it Hypocrisy Alert. And she has photographs of the ads advertising the event that she talks about. Hypocrisy Alert. As seen below, Ron DeSantis is campaigning with Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo in Nevada on June 17th. Now, right there, that sounds like a big deal, right? DeSantis is a governor, Lombardo's a governor, they're both Republicans, right? DeSantis claims he's against wokeness, but he's campaigning with Lombardo, who just signed a bill in Nevada that requires health insurance companies to cover and pay for transgender surgeries. How is this the conservative or America first? This is the definition of woke. More hypocrisy from Ron DeSantis, who often raises money off his claim that he's fighting the trans agenda and trans surgeries. I guess he only did it for optics, since he will be campaigning with Joe Lombardo in the key state of Nevada. Nevada, where woke goes to campaign, she wrote. So, you look at these stories, this is what really burns me. Every day that there's been a campaign story about DeSantis since his launch, starting with the launch on the Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk, everything's been a disaster. If you think about it, Kathy, has there been one day that Ron DeSantis has had a good day of news in his campaign?
No, and I wonder if he realizes that. That's the thing. I was reading this article about this guy who worked with him in Congress, and he said Ron DeSantis. He said when you get to know him, it doesn't take long to figure out you don't like him.
Really?
It's very unlikable, apparently. He said it's a mix of narcissism and paranoia, which is those two usually go hand in hand, because narcissists think everything's about them. So they would probably be prone to be paranoid because they think everybody's conspiring against them and everything. And so if he has a real personality disorder like that, he might not even see this stuff. He might not even see what we see, and that there's hypocrisy, or that he's in trouble, or that things are going wrong. I think he's very insulated and in his own little bubble. I think he's surrounded by yes men and people that are very loyal to him. That's how politics is. Mm-hmm. They tell you even Trump has been a victim to this. They tell you what you want to hear, and they flatter you, and they tell you all the things. Everything's good, good, good. All these guys have guys around them that do this. And I think that's what happens when you lose touch. You lose touch. I think one of the things that keeps Trump so down to earth and in tune with people is his interaction with people. He actually goes out, does rallies, meets people, talks to people, goes into restaurants. And I mean, DeSantis does that too, but you saw him at a restaurant. I don't know. Those were all donors. Trump goes to a restaurant. Those aren't donors. Like when he went to that Versailles, I don't think those were donors in there. Were they? Those were just customers.
No, they were just customers.
I mean, donors are going to kiss your ass, but customers are going to tell you the truth.
When I was at that event with DeSantis, the people that he actually came in contact with physically,
were donors.
Well, it was staged. They had some kids in wheelchairs and stuff that they put up to the front and everything. Not that kids in wheelchairs shouldn't be able to meet him, but it was a very bizarrely
he's kissing babies
staged thing.
Right.
And you understand what I mean? It was like
with Trump, it's organic.
Whatever happens, happens.
Right. And he meets people, he talks to people. I feel like he's more in tune with his voters and what's going on. Plus, Trump lived in the real world, and he still does. But he grew up and lived in the business world and understands how the world works. People that are in politics from college are like people that are college professors. They really don't understand how
He's always worked
world,
for the government.
They don't understand how the real world works. They really don't.
In the first campaign, Trump talked about this. He was asked about it. And he said when he was young, his dad used to take him to the construction sites of their properties, and he hung out with the construction workers and got to know them. Plus,
Don Jr. said that too about his father.
Plus, he, he's got employees and makes payroll and understands what things cost.
Exactly.
And one of the coolest things I've seen Trump do, as crazy as it sounds, is with that Oprah Winfrey show where he did different jobs at Trump Tower for a day. And he went through Trump Tower. He was he worked as a bellhop. He was in the kitchen, rooms, or whatever department he went into at Trump Tower. He knew every employee's name in there, and I was really impressed by that.
Incredible.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of people work at Trump Tower, and for him to know all of them that way. Well, anyway, I mean, DeSantis is a creep. Let's face it.
I just don't think he's aware of then
he's a mental patient.
Well, he obviously has a personality issue, but people rationalize things.
Yeah.
And I think if he sees that he's still going down in the polls, he has a lot of Jeb Bush tendencies, and Jeb Bush is probably telling him, don't worry about it, run the course, the tortoise and the hare and blah, 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 and Trump's going to be in prison, just hang in there, things will turn around. Meanwhile, that's what Jeb Bush was saying when he was running, and he kept going further and further down the stage. And he kept saying it. And I remember when that was going on, and I said to you, is this guy totally deluded?
Yeah.
I mean, some people just have a sense of entitlement, and they just don't understand that not everything's going to work out the way they want.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I want to play this clip from Whoopi on The View, which I apologize, guys, for playing a clip from The View. You know, Whoopi Goldberg wants to take over Wheel of Fortune with Pat Sajak's retirement.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you imagine?
No. She'll have to wear a bra because she doesn't wear them.
And stop wearing those curtains or whatever it is she wears, comforters or whatever she wears on her body that doesn't look like clothing.
I remember I saw her on a Disney special with you, and it was like a Christmas special.
The Wonderful World of Disney.
Yeah, she was hosting it. She was standing in front of the Magic Kingdom castle. All the lights were on her. She's wearing a velvet dress with no bra. I mean, velvet and no bra is not a good combination.
You could see her nipples.
You could see her nipples.
Yeah.
You could see everything, and her boobs were sagging to her down to below her waist. And I'm like, this woman needs a bra. She's over 60. The gravity has taken control.
You know what she's like, Kathy?
I mean, you got to wear a bra when you're over 40. I'm sorry.
She's like a bag lady.
Yeah, I mean, she would not be good on. But you know what? They'll probably give her that job.
So she's not there yet. I don't know if she wants to leave The View to do Wheel of Fortune or do both.
Big money in game shows.
But anyway,
big money.
This is Whoopi on The View, and she wants to change the Constitution of the United States. She wants to amend the Constitution so that Trump cannot be president again. So listen to this.
What really is was really starting to freak me out is the idea that we're not even discussing changing the Constitution.
Yeah, this thing here, I hate when people do this. They talk so slowly, and that's what she's doing. She's drawing out the words, talking slowly so that you can savor the wisdom that's coming out of her mouth.
Is the idea that we're not even discussing changing the Constitution to make it say you cannot be in jail and be the president.
Well, that part.
I mean, because my fear
an amendment would be nice.
I'm a big fan of amendments because I feel like unless we start to plug these holes, this is going to keep biting us in the behind. And it really is going to take the people saying, hey, listen, because if I can't vote when I come out of jail, why can you be president?
That's wonderful.
Okay. Now, a couple of things about this. I've never heard of, maybe it's happened, but I'm not familiar, of changing the Constitution just to stop one man from becoming president. That seems not very American to me. But nothing can convince me that Whoopi Goldberg, sometime way in the past that she doesn't reveal, felt slighted by Trump personally. She went to some event and he didn't treat her as nice as she thought she should be treated. Something happened, and it's personal with her, like Scarborough, and she's not revealing it. She's on all these weird things she has against Trump all the time. Something happened where she had a run-in with him 20, 30 years ago or something in New York, and she's ticked off about it, as opposed to all
personal.
these. Well, yeah, it is personal because these things she's grabbing onto are so. Like with these stories we're talking about with DeSantis, these are things that are happening that are in the news, and we're getting specific about it. She's grabbing onto these bizarre and vague things just to hate on the guy, like Joe Scarborough does, because Joe Scarborough was slighted because he wouldn't let his wife, who was bleeding, come to dinner on New Year's Eve, which I understand. I mean, she was bandaged up like the mummy, and blood was soaked in the bandages. I mean, who wants that at dinner? It was rude for him to even suggest bringing Mika to dinner looking that way on New Year's Eve at the president of the United States private party. And right before that, Joe Scarborough and Mika thought that Donald Trump was the greatest man in the world, like we do. And now he's the devil because of that one slight. Everybody knows that. So all of his grievances with Trump are all BS. It's all about that New Year's party. Similar thing happened with Whoopi.
Well, you're dealing with people that are famous, and they have very fragile egos. So anything they perceive as a slight or a diss is going to greatly upset them, and they won't be able to handle it, and it's going to turn them against you for sure. I mean, that's not exclusive to Trump. Anybody.
Be honest about it. All of us in our lives have had
I think that's the case
with
with Bill Maher. Like, I think Bill Maher agrees a lot with what Trump says, but he has a personal hatred of him because Trump sued him.
Yeah.
Which I can understand, but they have a personal history that's not good. And he has allow that. Like, the one person who doesn't do that is Megyn Kelly. They had that whole beef, her and Trump, with the debate and the Harvey Weinstein and the Fox and all that with the men and Me Too. But she still defends the guy when she agrees with what he's saying, even though they've had their arguments and she has made it clear in the past she didn't like him and all this stuff. And I think that might have had a hand in her leaving Fox News. She still will defend the guy when she agrees and when she feels it's right. So she has not allowed that personal experience to affect her opinion on this.
There are other radio personalities that Steve and I talk about sometimes, and we don't get along, and we've had personal things. There's one radio personality who recently passed away, and Steve and I had problems with this guy for 30 years, individually, personal problems.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to get into them even though the guy's dead, but we had personal problems. This guy did terrible things to Steve and me off the air, and we avoided being on the air with him, but whenever there were interactions, we would say, hey, he did this, we don't like each other because of this and that. We weren't just picking on him on the air, and, there's another personality that's currently on the air that I talk about sometimes, and they're radio death. They're one of the most boring people I've ever heard on the radio. It's amazingly boring, and it's good to listen to if you are having trouble sleeping, but they happen to be on during the middle of the day, which is not when you want to be falling asleep. But that person and me had a major problem about 25, 30 years ago at a radio station we worked at together. They got me fired from a radio station.
Yeah. Among other things.
But they got me fired from a radio station, telling lies to station management about me that I confronted them with. And I'm very honest about it. When we talk about the person, I'm like, hey, they're boring, they're this, they're that. And they got me fired 30. I don't pretend that I don't have any personal conflict with.
You don't just attack them without giving some context.
We had this thing that happened 30 years ago, and
you'll admit it's personal, and I'm pissed. So why should I defend them?
Yeah, exactly. So this thing with Whoopi and The View is just
well, she likes
personal.
White guys, and he's about her age. Maybe she had a thing for him. Maybe she hit on him. She dates white men that are around his age. Maybe she hit on him and he rejected her. And I mean, she's not attractive.
If you look at Whoopi Goldberg's public life, I don't know of a man she's been involved with in a relationship openly that we've seen in magazines and things with her since she's been famous that has not been white. They've been all white men.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe he rejected her.
I don't know. There's something personal between the two of them, which is fine. But admit that.
But I've never heard him say anything bad about her. Have you? Have you ever heard him attack her?
Whoopi? No, but I wouldn't say that he hasn't. It's hard to believe no one's asked him about The View. I just can't think of anything offhand that he
I've
said
really
about
never
The View.
heard him personally go after certain people on The View. I don't know. I'm sure he has, but I just don't remember.
I don't know.
But he's maybe attacked the show in general.
I don't know. Now listen, we're going to take our first break. Don't go anywhere. We got something big when we get back. All right? I'm Brian. Back after this.
Get ready for a high-stakes adventure with The Deadliest Heist from author Bill Eisenberg, available on Amazon. Imagine the surprise of a wayward British freighter that stumbles upon a sinking oil carrier off North Africa's coast. But this is no disaster. It's a plot, an intricate conspiracy celebrating a successful monumental oil heist. In the heart of this plot stands Catherine, an exceptional maritime investigator driven by personal loss and a thirst for justice. Her adversary, the merciless Andronicus Draconis, who leaves a trail of death in his wake to orchestrate history's grandest oil theft. As Catherine embarks on a deadly pursuit, she rivals the unforgiving head of the Kuwaiti secret police, spiraling through a thrilling chase across continents towards Draconis' stronghold in the Mediterranean. The Deadliest Heist is a pulse-pounding journey that will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very last page. The Deadliest Heist from author Bill Eisenberg. Order your copy on Amazon. Are you searching for hope throughout the storms of life? Author Angela Nicole's new book, I See God, is an inspiring book that's available on Amazon right now. In I See God, journey with the author as she battles kidney disease, where earnest prayers and unwavering faith reveal a God who makes the impossible possible. Meet a God who is by your side, a God who remains true to his word and is working tirelessly for your good. Let your spirit be uplifted as you rise above the waves and witness miracles. Embrace hope and order your copy of I See God from author Angela Nicole, available on Amazon. Are you a tabletop game enthusiast searching for a podcast that covers tabletop games? Then check out the Tabletop Shop Podcast. Join hosts Cody and Nate, two friends who share a passion for board games. Every week, they bring you a new episode that explore the nuances of tabletop gaming, from card games to ancient strategy games and everything in between. The Tabletop Shop Podcast covers it all. They'll take you on their journey of exploring new games, sharing their experiences, and engaging in lively discussions. They also feature interviews with board game designers, fellow podcasters, and other incredible individuals from the industry, so you'll get a behind-the-scenes look at the world of tabletop gaming. You'll want to check out their other podcast too, the Dice Cast, where they discuss the exciting world of RPG systems. Find the Tabletop Shop Podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcast platforms. The Tabletop Shop Podcast, your ticket to endless fun and adventure.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. So President Trump just released a message. It's on Truth. It's on Instagram. After the indictment, and I'll just play them. We'll talk about it.
I want to thank all of the thousands of people in Miami, great place, for showing up at the courthouse and doing it in such an elegant manner, but showing respect because you recognize that this was a false and fraudulent indictment of me by corrupt people. To see the love and the spirit was incredible. It was an incredible thing to witness. And the Hispanic community, Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, so much, and so many people. I just want to thank everybody. It was heartwarming to watch it. The love, the total love and the spirit. So again, to Miami and to all of the people in Miami, which we've had tremendous success with, which is very, very special and a very special place. But more importantly, very, very special people. Thank you very much for being there. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah. So, this is really an amazing thing. They're never going to break Trump. But, Miami, the Cubans in Miami, people don't realize how strongly pro-MAGA. I went last year when they had that Cuban liberation demonstrations in Miami.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I went to one of them. There were thousands and thousands of Cubans. It was right down the street from the federal courthouse in front of that Freedom Tower down there near the stadium where the Miami Heat play. And I wore my MAGA hat down there. And I went there because I made a vlog. It's on my YouTube channel, the Cuba Libre celebration. Yeah. And they had all the speakers there. It was crazy. John Cicada was speaking. Remember John Cicada?
That. Oh, yeah.
Just another day?
Just Another Day.
Yeah.
Great song.
Yeah. I couldn't understand what he was saying because he was speaking Spanish. I would love to hear him sing the song. Gloria Estefan's husband, all the Cuban celebrities were there. Everyone was there except Pitbull. And I was hoping to meet Pitbull, but he was not there. In fact, that's one of the reasons I went.
Oh, and he's really... Yeah. I don't know how he feels about Trump, but he's right in line with the whole Cuban conservative. I've heard him talk about it, about, communism and all that. So he is right in there with that. I know that because he's he is very active with that whole thing. He does concerts and everything. Yeah. But it's amazing because like my sister, her husband's Cuban, and his parents came here from Cuba back in the 60s. And they really, the whole Cuban community is very tight-knit. Like, he will not leave Miami. She has tried to move out of, now she's a flight attendant out of Miami airport, but she can work out of anywhere. She's been a flight attendant for 25 years. But she tried to move to Jupiter, Boca, and all this stuff, and her husband flat out refuses to leave Miami. He works in Boca. He works an hour and a half from his job, commutes both ways an hour and a half.
He bought a Tesla because of the gas.
That's right.
To save on
gas. He just doesn't want to leave his family. They're very family-oriented, the Cuban people, and they're very tight-knit. That's why they call it Little Havana. And Calle Ocho and everything, they're all conglomerated in certain areas, and they all are very like-minded with this whole anti-communism thing.
And when DeSantis, I made Dade County, I made Miami Republican. That is so not true. It's just not true. But anyway, he's got a lot of support down there. Now, Obama did an interview on David Axelrod's podcast, and I'm going to play some of this right now, and we're going to talk about it. And I find it disgusting. I find Obama such a sad waste of a presidency. You know, Obama was a Democrat. I didn't vote for him. He was a socialist and all this stuff. Okay, we guys know how bad he is. But, you know, being the first, he wasn't just the first black president of the United States, which is an amazing thing. He was the first elected black leader of any major nation on earth. And he gave this interview that's gone public today to David Axelrod on David Axelrod's podcast. And he's talking like race relations are in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't acknowledge that we are in a society filled with racial equality. Our society is equal now. If anything, it's going the other way. I mean, look at, you know, I was talking this morning about Daniel Penny and the subway attack, right? Mm-hmm. He saved everybody on the subway from me. Yeah. That guy he's been arrested. He's going on trial for murder. Why? Because he's white. And
well, if he had subdued a white guy, this wouldn't even be happening.
Or if he were black, it wouldn't be happening. So if anything, the racism is towards white people these days. But when it comes to blacks, we are so far beyond that. And Obama should know better. Obama is a little bit older than we are. And I can remember when I was younger, all kinds of things. I'm not going to go through a litany of things, but you know, I remember things when I first moved when I lived in Ohio, I didn't see it. But when I moved to Florida, it was still the Democrat South. It was the early 80s. And I saw racial things that I just couldn't believe. All that's gone. I mean, that's 40 years ago. That stuff. All that stuff's gone. And Obama, though, is talking like it's the 1930s on race relations.
Well, if it's not gone, I mean, I'm sure there are some people that still hold on to those ideas, but it's not mainstream anymore. Not even close.
It's not institutionalized. In fact, it's the opposite.
Right. But I think people like Obama, he's a lot like Sonny Hostin. They want to keep this narrative going of oppression so they can feel special. He wants to feel that he overcame something and that he did something astronomical when he really didn't. You know, it's because of the timing when he ran and everything, and people have evolved over these things. Believe me, if people still thought like they did in the 70s or 60s, he never would have been elected. But they want to feel that they've overcome these amazingly great obstacles, and that the only way to reach those levels of success is if you're super special like they are.
Well, and Obama was elected and reelected, not with I didn't vote for the guy, but he was elected and reelected because the majority of white people voted for him.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, so let me play this. He's talking to David Axelrod, who's a jerk, liberal jerk, worked for Obama, but they're talking about Nikki Haley and Senator Tim Scott. Okay, listen.
I haven't spent a lot of time studying Tim Scott's speeches. I think there's a long history of African American or other minority candidates within the Republican Party who will validate America and say everything's great and we can all make it. I mean, Nikki Haley, I think, has a similar approach.
She does, yeah.
Right? You know, look at me. I'm an Asian Indian American woman, and my family came here and we worked hard. Clarence Thomas probably gave the same speech at some point, I guarantee, in some commencement, as did Alan Keyes, the first guy that I ran against.
Yeah.
I don't think it's look, I'm not being cynical about Tim Scott individually. I am maybe suggesting that the rhetoric of can't we all get along, and the quotes you made about, from my speech in 2004 about there's a United States of America. That has to be undergirded with an honest accounting of our past and our present. And so if a Republican who may even be sincere in saying, I want us all to live together, doesn't have a plan for how do we address crippling generational poverty that is a consequence of hundreds of years of racism in the society, and we need to do something about that.
Okay. And go, listen, he is such a terrible person. Obama was very well connected, okay? We talked about this. Obama, people don't talk about this because we don't talk about Obama anymore. But when he was president, we talked a lot about this. But I just want to review a little bit. Obama didn't come out of nowhere, okay? Frank Marshall Davis, who was that weirdo, that mentor of his mother, remember Obama grew up in his early years in Indonesia with his mother and stepfather. Lolo Sotoro, I think, was the stepfather's name. And Indonesia, where he lived until he was about 11 or 12, is the country with the largest Muslim population in the world. People don't realize that, more than like Saudi Arabia. It's amazing, right? And at around 11 or 12, his mother took him to Hawaii, dropped him off with the grandparents, left him there. And the grandparents turned him over to Frank Marshall Davis. Frank Marshall Davis.
How did they know him?
Probably the radicalism of his father. You know, his father was a radical and his mother was a radical. So they probably knew him that way. And then Frank Marshall Davis took him to Chicago. And I don't know what age he went to Chicago. It's very vague. You know, reporters went to the apartment building where Obama lived in Hawaii with his white grandparents. The neighbors lived there when Obama lived there. They don't remember a black kid living in the building.
I remember.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
I don't know. That's what they said. But anyway.
His background's he's
very sketchy.
Vague about it.
Frank Marshall Davis took him to Chicago. Frank Marshall Davis was in a cell. The cell included, it was Frank Marshall Davis, Bill Ayers' parents, Valerie Jarrett's parents, and Hillary Clinton's parents in Chicago. They were all friends in this cell, and that's where Obama came up from, okay? So unlike, hold on, guys, I got to clear my throat. Unlike some of these others, like Tim Scott, I'll use Tim Scott because he talked about, or some others that he references. He had a big helping hand getting up,
right.
Okay? He wasn't working at Chick-fil-A, all right? He was already in the inner circle of power.
So he never had that experience.
From the time that's right.
So he doesn't understand
that
it is possible and that a black guy can make it in this country because that's not his experience.
Exactly. He was in, I'm not saying that he was rich, but he was inside this cell of power.
He was connected.
With the Clintons, with the Ayers, with the Jarretts, with Frank Marshall Davis. Everything was handed to him. So when he sees someone like Ben Carson or Tim Scott say, hey, America's not this way. I made it. I grew up middle class. I grew up poor, and I went to college, and now I'm a Supreme Court justice or a senator, or I'm this or I'm that.
Or Dr. Carson.
Yeah, Dr. Ben Carson grew up in public housing, and then he's greatest brain surgeon America's ever had. In fact, Ben Carson was so great, they made a movie about him with Cuba Gooding Jr. playing Dr. Ben Carson. That movie's been suppressed because they don't want to promote Carson anymore. Right. But Obama doesn't understand that because he never had to pick himself up off of anything because everything was handed to him like a Kennedy.
Right.
You understand what I mean?
Right.
So
that's not his experience.
No. So when he hears these people say, like Nikki Haley, my family came here, we had nothing, we made it, we're minority. To him, that doesn't even make sense. It doesn't compute.
No,
he doesn't have that experience.
That. And I think it goes with what you said about Sonny Hostin, is he wants to feel special. And they're the ones that he talks about poverty in the black community. The reason for poverty, one of the reasons in the black community is the baby daddies, the rampant, the welfare state, that they have gotten themselves locked in. And it's not just black people. There's plenty of white people on welfare, okay? But I'm just saying specifically what he's addressing is the welfare state in some of these cities, that voting for these liberal people that are coddling the communities, the handouts, the crime. These are all things that are insular and that are done by the black community. The white people aren't doing this to them. We're not oppressing them. They're oppressing themselves.
Well, and Obama
in certain communities that he's referring to, like Chicago.
Obama, could be such a positive force. He could go out there and say, I'm a black man. I was elected and reelected. You could make a case if he was a one-term president. You could make a case. Okay, he got elected by accident.
Like he got lucky,
but he got reelected. Yeah. So there's no like. He could be such a positive influence, and you're right. He's just like Sonny Hostin the other day. He said, "Don't look at me as a role model. I'm the exception. I got lucky.
Right.
This is a racist country.
Right.
If you're black, if you're
never gonna
brown,
make it.
you're screwed. You can't be what I am. Just me and Sonny Hostin can make it. Nobody else can."
He never had that experience like Tim Scott.
No.
Tim Scott is living proof.
No, he's a jerk.
And what bothers me the most about the racial thing is, I'm not saying things are perfect, but there's racism coming from all sides, okay? It's not just coming from one community. It's coming from a lot of communities towards other people, and that needs to be acknowledged. When there's people that are different, you're going to experience this, okay? In any country. When I was in Italy, there were two groups of people I saw, other than the tourists.
Italians and tourists, I was going to say.
Italians and the Nigerians. The Nigerians were all on the streets selling stuff, okay? And they were everywhere just selling on the streets. And then there's the gypsies. But anyway, and the Italian people, they all seem to coexist. The Nigerians were like a very small group, but 99% of the country is Italian and Catholic. And there's not this huge mix like you have in this country. This is the only country where you really have such a diverse population. Okay, you go to even England is not as diverse as this. You have Switzerland, all these other countries. You think Africa's diverse? No. South America? No. There's maybe a handful of people that are white, but every other country is much more, just one group, one religion, and this and that. This is America. It's a melting pot. So whenever you have that, you are going to have people that disagree and don't get along, because the media and people like Obama that say things like this are constantly making people feel like there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because they won't stop talking about it, and they keep telling you there's a problem. And a lot of people don't even realize there's a problem until they're told there's a problem.
Exactly.
And the media and the Democrats, they live off division. That's how they maintain their power.
So here we are.
They use that fear. They instill fear.
Obama was elected in 2008. So he's probably started running in 2006, maybe 2007. So we've had 15 years plus of Obama. We've had Obama on the national stage for 15, 16 years. There is not one positive thing he doesn't make himself a role model. He keeps saying the same thing. Yeah, I made it, but you're black. You can't make it. You can't do it.
That's what Sonny Hostin.
That is such a destructive, terrible thing for him to say. I think he's a terrible person. He's no role model. He's a disgusting person, Obama. And he really, I apologize for playing the audio. I really wrestled with it because I really don't like hearing Obama, but I think we have to talk about it. It's in the news today.
Him and Sonny Hostin, people like that, they don't want other blacks to succeed. They want to be the only ones.
They want to be special.
They want to be special. Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that. They don't want you to work hard and be successful in life, because then that takes away their specialness.
Now, it is summertime. It is hot. I mean, here in Florida, okay, we have this thing called the heat index. Those of you that are new to Florida, or you're somewhere else, you're not from Florida, may not be familiar with the heat index. Up north during the winter, you have the wind chill. The wind chill factor, you look at during the winter what the temperature is and then what it feels like, right? So the temperature will be 20 degrees, but it'll feel like 10 below, right? We have the heat index in Florida. We have what the temperature is and then what it feels like. So today it's 95 with a heat index of 105. So it feels like 105 degrees.
Yeah, you add 10 degrees.
So isn't that, but not all, but it's hot. It's hot. And in fact, it's so hot, we're getting heat index warnings on our iPhones here in our community. So Mike Lindell, the Thomas Edison of sleep, has this incredible new pillow. It's an upgrade on his original pillow, the MyPillow 2.0 with cooling technology. It has the same patented fill inside as the MyPillow that started it all, but the material that is the cover is made out of this cooling technology that Mike Lindell developed. He said it didn't exist, this technology, when he first invented the MyPillow. You will love it. Your head, your face will never get hot at night. You'll always be the perfect temperature. You will never flip your pillow over again looking for the cool side. And I got to tell you, there's nothing worse than during the summer trying to sleep when you're hot and sweaty. The MyPillow 2.0 with cooling technology is buy one, get one free when you use our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE. And remember, when you do that, you're supporting this program, the Brian Craig Show podcast with myself and my wife, Kathy, and all my other content, the radio show, my YouTube channel. So it's a great way to support all of my content too. You can take advantage of all the specials at MyPillow.com with my promo code KANE, KANE. But that MyPillow 2.0, buy one, get one free at checkout when you use the promo code KANE, KANE.
Are you ready to unlock your child's creativity and imagination? Introducing B-Block's Building Blocks STEM toy that offers endless possibilities for building and fun. Available online at Amazon.com/B-Blocks. That's BEBLOX. With B-Block's Building Blocks STEM toy, the building adventures are limitless. They're available in 2 sets, 250 pieces and 500 pieces. The more pieces you have, the more you can create. These vibrant and sturdy building tiles come in 8 different colors, allowing your child to explore colors, shapes, and designs in an exciting and fun way. It's a tool for learning development by stimulating creativity. These STEM projects enhance fine motor skills, hand-eye coordination, and even introduce basic geometry as well as architectural concepts. Whether it's a birthday or any occasion, B-Block's Building Block STEM toy makes a smart gift idea for both boys and girls aged 4 to 12. Don't miss out on this incredible STEM toy that sparks imagination and learning. Go right now to Amazon.com/B-Blocks. That's BEBLOX. Amazon.com/B-Blocks. Robert Allen Miltenberg invites you to time travel with him to the Roman future. His new novella available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. It's the golden age of Rome, a time of peace and prosperity. And Scadius Commodius Lavatorius is its greatest scientist. But for all he's achieved, one question haunts him. Will Rome survive the test of time? There's only one way to find out. Come along on this cosmic romp of an adventure. See if you can read the signs any better than a brilliant scientist can. Prediction, science fiction, allegory, national glory. This is a satire at its most gladiatorial. Center stage in the Circus Maximus of your mind. A story of time machines and timeless politics, strange Roman cuisine and gambling parlor tricks, spinning gold and crossing the river Styx. That's the Roman future. Available on Kindle and paperback. Go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble now and visit The Roman Future by Robert Allen Miltenberg today. Attention all music lovers and vintage enthusiasts. Discover a treasure trove of vintage shirts at B Design Collection on Etsy. That's B spelled B-E-E. They have a huge selection of vintage band shirts, including Queen, Black Sabbath, and Elton John's Rocket Man. These shirts are a must-have for any music enthusiast. Imagine wearing the legendary designs of your favorite bands. These vintage shirts come in gold, black, and white, so you can rock in a style that suits your taste. B Design Collection is offering a limited time discount. When you use the promo code GOBIG25, receive an exclusive discount at checkout. They also have an incredible variety of shirts for every occasion. What are you waiting for? Elevate your style and visit B Design Collection on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/B Design Collection. That's B spelled B-E-E. Etsy.com/shop/B Design Collection. The ultimate destination for vintage shirts and unique designs. Shop now and let your style shine. Etsy.com/shop/B Design Collection.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. Always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. I want to play this clip of Biden today. Okay, and it's important to point out this is today, and he's in the state of Connecticut. Okay, listen.
All right, God save the Queen, man.
Okay, 2 things here. The Queen's dead, so it's God save the King now.
Right.
And he's in Connecticut. Now, if he was in Delaware, you could say, "Oh, the Queen's his wife. Maybe she's in Delaware." I don't know. What's he talking? He's in Connecticut. What's he talking? What made him say that?
No clue.
You got to wonder about this guy.
But the audience applauds everything he says. I mean, he says totally incoherent things and they applaud him.
That it's bizarre.
Yeah,
It's scary. Now, I want to tell you guys, make sure that if you don't already, you follow me on my YouTube channel, Brian Craig Show on YouTube.
We added a new design to our merch shop today.
Oh, great. Is it that one I wanted?
No, I got to work on that.
Don't tell people that one.
That's going to take a little more time, the one you want. But I added another one today, and we have like 5 or 6 now.
Okay.
And when you're listening to this, you can see the merch shelf. Sometimes on the video, it'll pop up View Shop. And the people are buying the merch.
That's good.
It's doing
I
really
appreciate
well,
it, guys.
and we have good merch. It's good quality stuff, too.
It supports all of us when you guys do that.
Yeah.
But make sure if you don't already, you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put a lot of content on my YouTube channel, Brian Craig Show on YouTube, and I'm doing a lot more. And what I started doing last week was and I do these during the week too, but mostly on the weekends, but also during the week from time to time, are live streams from my home studio where I take live calls, and I have a very nice studio here at home, and it's much different than what you'd see me do in the mornings. In fact, people have been telling me they like it better. Some of the people like it. It's a little different.
People say you're more relaxed.
Relaxed?
Probably because you're home, and probably because you haven't been up since 2 o'clock in the morning.
I may still have been up since 2.
You usually sleep in till 6 on the weekends. So you're a little more rested and you've had your coffee and maybe you're just a little more relaxed than when you're on the radio where you've been up for 3 hours already.
No, when I do my live streams at home on the weekend, I've been up since early. I've been up a long time.
You get up at 2?
Probably 4 or 5 on the weekends.
Okay,
I get up.
so you sleep in a little bit longer.
Get up at 4 or 5 on the weekends. But the live streams that I do from home, I cover a lot of things in a different way than I can when I'm on in the mornings. And I do take live calls on that as well, just like I do during the week. And great callers. Mm-hmm. But this weekend, I got a lot of things planned. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You have to watch the streams. But follow me on YouTube, Brian Craig Show on YouTube. And also, when you do that, click the notification bell so that you get a notification when I go live. And I have some plans. I'm going to hit on some things and do some things on my live stream this weekend that you will not want to miss, guys. Okay, now you just gave me this article. And before I read the article, Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals. So, when we're talking about Obama in the last segment. Rules for Radicals is Obama's Bible, right? And all the liberals live but with the Rules for Radicals. When Obama got elected, everyone was talking about Rules for Radicals, and I got a copy of the book and read it. And the one thing I remember about it, in Rules for Radicals, it says, accuse your opponent of doing what you're doing, right? And that's all they do with Trump. And then listen to this. This is Joe Scarborough. You just gave me this article, Kathy. Joe Scarborough says he thinks Trump kept documents to make deals. This is all about money. Donald Trump has $10 billion, okay? He doesn't have to sell secrets, but that's what Biden's been doing.
Yeah, keep reading that article. It's interesting.
And, it just came out last night that the committee, they say that there are now $30 million worth of bribes that they have seen records of that Biden has $30 million.
See what they do about it. The irony here is, or whatever
I'll read through the article and then we'll go.
Okay.
But $30 million in bribes. And the reason that Biden has the documents at home is because there's no visitor logs at home. People can come to the home and read them and see them or take pictures with their phones. And the reason that he keeps them and doesn't give them away is so that if the documents come up missing, he can produce them. Mm-hmm. All right, so let me get to this. You just gave me this. I've not read this story. MSNBC pundit Joe Scarborough suggested today that Donald Trump held on to government secrets after leaving the White House for financial reasons. If you're trying to figure out Donald Trump's motive, whatever it is, we've been saying it for 8 years, it's all about money, Scarborough said, before noting he has absolutely no evidence that he was selling this information to anybody. But he still said it, right? But I would never say, or he was just doing this to hug boxes. The former GOP congressman said, there's every reason to believe, given his past, that there would be a possibility that he might trade this information, if not directly for money, maybe for access, so that he can make contacts and build a hotel in this place or that place.
Oh, my gosh.
This guy is out of his freaking mind.
Meanwhile, they have actual proof that he said there, he admits he has no evidence. Meanwhile, they have actual proof that Biden did do this, and he won't talk about that. Yeah. But he'll talk about Trump, who may or may not do this. That's just his theory. But the president now actually they have evidence, documentation, they have witnesses, but Joe Scarborough won't acknowledge that. I mean, this is amazing to me. I know he says he's a conservative, but he's not. This is amazing to me, or maybe he is, that the people that support Biden or that hate Trump, this is the way they act. They have evidence right in front of them. They completely ignore it, but they project it onto Trump where they have zero evidence. I mean, it's just incredible. I don't think this has anything to do with selling things or access. Trump has never had a problem getting anything built. Okay? The guy has not had any issues with that. And now that he's president, it's probably easier than ever. But what this is about, I think what you had talked about was Trump might be kind of a PAC rat. I think he likes to, I mean, he just produced this book of every letter given to him by a celebrity. He clearly likes to hold on to these things and keep mementos. Brian's not that way. I give him a card. I think it's in the garbage 2 days later.
Well, that's not just Kathy. I don't want people to think I'm throwing stuff.
Right.
Like
I mean,
I keep nothing.
You don't keep mementos like that. A lot of people don't.
I have a rule.
But Trump clearly keeps every single thing that's been given to him. And I think these boxes were, I mean, if you were the president of the United States, when you want to keep all that stuff, that's a pretty cool thing.
I keep nothing. And I got a rule, except in some exceptions, that if I haven't touched it in 6 months, it goes in the garbage.
Yeah, that's the Marie Kondo.
And I clean out the garage like every 3 months. I throw everything away, pretty much, that I can throw away. And it's gone. That's just how I am. President Trump is a PAC rat. If you remember, his office at Trump Tower was overloaded with papers and mementos. He keeps everything.
If you were president, wouldn't you want to keep those mementos for your presidential library?
Well,
or things like that to pass down to your children?
We talked on the last podcast. The documents that they said that he had that were classified are less than one box full of documents, about half a box full of documents. All those boxes they showed us are his personal things, his newspapers, his pictures, his underwear, his socks. You know, it's not what they're trying to make us think that it is with those very misleading photographs. And Joe Scarborough is one of the most irresponsible broadcasters. MSNBC is part of NBC News. It's just basically news is just all gossip. It's all like The View. It's all gossip all day, all of it. It's really despicable.
And I think he knows what he's doing. I mean, what it is they have a show to fill. And they want to spend their time bashing Trump.
Correct.
So they have a meeting in the morning and they have to figure out, okay, how can we spin this and that to make Trump look bad? How can we try to put a dent in his base? How can we stop him from being president? This is their main focus. He was like Trump's best friend. And then Trump made the comment, I don't know why he did that, but he made a comment about his wife's face and that was it. And ever since then, he's been on a personal vendetta to destroy the man. So that's where he's coming from. So every show he does has a sole purpose to try to bring down Trump. So he is going to say whatever he has to say, even if it's complete nonsense, to try to destroy his credibility, his reputation, whatever he can do. But good luck. I mean, nobody listens to him anyway or takes what he says for too much. I mean, MSNBC is like, it's a hardcore liberal audience. He's basically preaching to the choir. He's not changing anybody's mind.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really just talking to people that hate Trump anyway. So it's really falling on deaf ears.
Yeah. And I can't stand Joe Scarborough. Now, unrelated to all these things, you sent me the story today. You found this. You saw this online. You sent this to me. It's pretty interesting. They found in Europe, in a German town, they dug up some, I don't know, they were digging things up. They found a 3,000-year-old sword. And it looks almost brand new, like it was buried recently. It's very shiny and everything. It's 3,000 years old. Archaeologists found it in Germany, which, by the way, is that's the Bronze Age. I don't know what it looks like steel, but I don't think they had steel during the Bronze Age. I don't know. But it's 3,000 years old. And the reason I bring this up.
No, I think they just had. That's why I question this. I don't think they had steel either. I think they had iron.
Well, it could be it's
gold and maybe silver. Maybe it's made of silver. They did have silver in ancient Egypt, so maybe it's silver.
It could be. Silver color. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're shot.
It's not steel. I'm pretty sure
the archaeologists have never found something like this before. But it's 3,000 years old. But that's a long time ago. That's older than Jesus, of course.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I bring this up, these godless Democrats. Who are, they don't believe in God, they don't believe in Jesus, and they're all into this theory of evolution. When you see these things that are found long ago, there's one, the remains of the oldest person that was found is amazing. They call him Otzi the Iceman, and this was found in the Alps at about 10,500 feet up. And it was a man
Oh my
who,
goodness.
let me see how old. Let me look this up real quick and get how old
How did he get there?
he was. He is believed to have been lived between 3,350 and 3105 BC. So 5,000 years old, right? So 5,000-year-old remains.
Right.
And there's a documentary on this. It was on Nova or something. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. You got to look this up. They actually have him on display. I think in Switzerland. It might be but it's in the Alps region. But anyway, his body was so well preserved because it was in the Alps, and he had gotten shot in the back by an arrow and died, and then he was under snow for these 5,000 years. And not only was he very well preserved, the most preserved remains ever found of an ancient human, all of his things were with him. He had a bag with all of his stuff in it, and they went through it, and they have all this stuff. It was perfectly preserved. This 5,000-year-old man, he had shoes that had laces in them. Do you imagine?
That's incredible.
He had tools that archaeologists didn't think that humans had developed for 2,000, 2,500 years later.
These historians have gotten so much wrong. People were much more advanced than they realized.
Well, this is the thing. You go back, this sword they found that's 3,000 years old was found with 3 bodies. They have remains there. This 5,000-year-old remains they found, he had all kinds of tools with him that were very advanced. And when I saw his shoes, I'm not saying they're like my shoes. When I saw how advanced his shoes were, and I was like, what, 5,000 years ago? One thing you don't see, they're the same. He was in his 50s. They did an the body was so well preserved, they did an autopsy.
Yeah.
He had heart disease.
Incredible.
Heart disease, like any other man in his 50s, like with clogged
probably
arteries
had a heavy
and stuff.
meat diet too.
Yeah. But, when you look at the this guy, not just the tools and artifacts he had, which are absolutely amazing, but you look at the body and you look at these bodies they found in this sword from 3,000 years ago in Germany that's in the news today, those people are just like us. There's been no human evolutionary development between those 5,000-year-old people and us. Yeah. This whole thing about evolution is just a bunch of fairy tales. And, the thing about the liberals who just are godless atheists, all right?
There's no ape men.
They keep saying that we are science deniers on all the. If you disagree with them on anything, you're a science denier. Their whole evolutionary theory is based on Darwin, which is from the 1800s.
Yeah.
So they base their entire religion. Liberalism's a religion. So they base their entire liberal religion of atheism. Atheism's a religion, in my opinion, on science from the 1800s.
Yeah.
Now if they found this 5,000-year-old man in the Alps that I'm talking, you look this guy up on YouTube. It will blow your mind. If you can find the Nova documentary, when I saw this Nova documentary,
I want to watch it now.
I was like so blown away by this.
Yeah.
I went and watched every documentary and read everything I could find on this guy. This was like 10 or 15 years ago. It just blew my mind, and it'll freak you out too. It's crazy. But if they found that guy and he had a lot of differences to his body compared to us today, I'd say, okay, maybe there's some evolution. But they're the same as we are today. You go look at the Egyptians on the wall; they look like us. They don't have. There's nothing different about them. And this guy, they did the autopsy on him because he was so well preserved. His organs, his heart, and everything were in the same condition as a man in the 50s today would have. It'll blow your mind. So go and check it out, and don't believe these liberals with their phony baloney evolution nonsense.
And what's he called again?
I always forget his name.
So people can Google?
It is Otzi, O-T-Z-I, Otzi the Iceman.
Okay.
Okay, and he was found in the Alps in a glacier. It will blow your mind. Try to find the Nova documentary because they did the best one on it. I've seen like all of them. It's fascinating. But like if they found the guy and he had some organs that we don't have or something, I'd say, oh, okay.
Yeah, meaning there's no change in his body structure.
No.
Or ours.
It's all make-believe.
I don't believe in it at all.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing I want to talk about before we go. But first I want to thank our Patreon supporters. And then there's one last thing I want to talk about after that. If you would like to support the program, a great way to do that is to become a patron of the program. And there's a link to our Patreon page in the description of the episode. And if you're a patron, You get access to commercial-free editions of all of our podcast episodes. And also, on occasion, Kathy and I do exclusive episodes only for Patreon supporters. And there's some exclusive content there as well. But all Patreon supporters have access to commercial-free editions of the podcast. Our top Patreon supporters get a live, on-air thank you shout-out on each and every podcast. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Rome, Wisconsin, Mike P, Melissa, Richard, David, Arctic Fox, John, Paulette, and Carlos. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you all for your support. Okay, there was an execution in Florida yesterday. And I know this was just a coincidence, but at the time he was being executed, which they don't do by electric chair in Florida anymore. They used to do it by electric chair. They stopped doing it because people were bursting into flames. They were catching on fire when they would electrocute them. But at the time of the execution, twice yesterday, our electricity went out in our house.
Yeah,
it was at the same. It was a coincidence.
They don't use Old Sparky anymore.
We used to call it Old Sparky. It was just a coincidence. It's the first time in a long time I've seen an execution get so much publicity about it as this one. This guy was a real animal, and actually, Kathy and I watched the ID special about this guy. Mm-hmm. He murdered 2 women in our community. One of them in the town we live in, and here in Florida, back in the 80s. One of them was a 14-year-old girl who was a babysitter. She was babysitting little kids. He stabbed her 15 times, cut her throat, then raped her. And
the parents came home and found her in their bedroom. Thank God he didn't kill the children.
Yeah, and then he
knew there were children there too.
And then there was an adult woman, a mother. He went into her house and killed her. It's just god awful, just god awful. But I'm opposed to the death penalty. If I were called for jury duty and it was a death penalty case, I would tell them I'm opposed. Now I don't have any sympathy for this guy. He got what he deserved. But me personally, I could not on a jury give someone the death penalty because I'd feel like I was killing someone, and I couldn't be a party to killing someone. But I'm pro-life all the way. And I don't want you guys to think I'm some liberal do-gooder. I'm just pro-life, and I don't worry about the killers too. When the abortions are almost gone now. And I used to say when the abortions stop, when they stop giving the death penalty to unborn innocent children in the womb, then I'll worry about these guys. But I have no sympathy for them. I'm just opposed to the death penalty. But I got to tell you, this guy got what he deserved. I mean, this was one of the most brutal killings and murderers I've ever seen. And, this guy, he used a knife, not a gun. He used a knife with his killing. Yeah, and a hammer and a knife. And liberals have this fantasy that if we got rid of all the guns, there'd be no crime. This guy had a hammer and a knife, and it was in the 80s in Florida. You could get a gun anywhere, and
in fact, I think a lot of serial killers don't even use guns. Most of them strangle. Guns are too quick. They stab. I watch a lot of true
and they
crime.
Draw attention.
I'd say 9 times out of 10, they strangle the person. That seems to be the most common. They stab them to death, bludgeon them to death. Very rarely is it by gunshot.
That's right. Yeah.
People look at what's amazing. Well, not amazing, but when you had that one, I remember in the same week, this was not that long ago, you had a gunman go into a mall or somewhere, he killed 8 people. In the same week, you had a guy run over 8 people with his car and killed 8 people. And they didn't even talk about that. And that shows you if somebody is evil and they're hell-bent on killing people, they're going to find a way. That's just the way it is. Well, unfortunately, if the guns are not there, they'll take their car. They'll take a hammer, a knife, whatever.
Right now in Florida, here in our town, the police officer from the Parkland school is on trial because he didn't intervene. And
yes,
if like the school shooter here in Parkland, Nicholas Cruz, if the schools were a fortress where nothing like this could happen, he would just go to the McDonald's where the kids hang out after school and do the shooting there. Do you understand what I mean? If all the schools got locked down tomorrow, where it was impossible to have a mass shooting.
Or he'd get in his car and mow them down.
They would just go somewhere where the kids congregated and do the same thing. You're never going to stop evil people. Evil people are always going to do what it is they do, whether they have guns or not. The only thing that happens if you take the guns away are people are less safe. Now, starting in July, which is just a couple weeks away, here in Florida, we're going to have concealed carry without permits. You will not need a permit to carry a gun. And I got to tell you, a lot of people are really worried about this. In fact, I was talking to a couple of guys that are in the gun business the other day. One owns a gun store, and one is a retired police officer. And they're very worried about this because the problem is with a lot of people. In Florida, we have a lot of people that are new to Florida that have fled these blue states after the lockdowns and shutdowns. And one of the first things that people like to do when they move to Florida is buy a gun. And when they come from one of these Democrat states where they don't have guns like we do here in Florida, they don't know anything. Like me, I was raised on guns. I had my first gun when I was 12, but even before that, my dad and grandfather took me shooting and everything. I've been shooting guns and handling guns my whole life. So when I was old enough to buy guns on my own and possess them like I do now, I know
your
what I'm doing.
grandpa and your dad were both military men, too.
And
so they knew how to handle guns,
Yeah, and
too.
they taught me, but sometimes I'm at the gun store and I'll see a guy here who's moved here from like New York, and
or California.
People don't know anything about guns that come from these Democrat states, and they just buy the gun that looks cool or is pretty or somebody in a movie has, and they buy guns that are huge. They don't know what they're doing, and they don't know how to use them. So that gets me a little nervous, with people. Anyone who is new to Florida that is looking to buy a gun and you have not grown up with guns, you don't know about guns, and it's not your first gun, you need to take a course, go ask them about it at the gun store and learn how to use the guns a little bit. Here in Florida, and I'm sure this may be true in other states. I've lived in Florida I've not been to gun ranges in other states, only in Florida. When you go to a gun range here in Florida, they rent guns and they have all kinds of guns. And a good idea for someone is go to a gun range and try out some guns. And when you rent the guns, there's no background check or anything. You just go, they check your ID that you're old enough, they give you a gun.
Most of the guys during the Revolutionary War use their guns probably regularly. They would kill their dinner or do whatever. You know what I mean? They knew how to use them. They had a lot of practice by the time. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them probably, they didn't have grocery stores. They would go out and hunt for their food. So they were very well experienced in using that. And a lot of people now, I think everybody should be able to own a gun that does not have a record. I don't think ex-cons should have guns.
No.
But if you're a law-abiding citizen, it should be easy to get a gun. But you really do need to be a responsible gun owner and not just buy it and then stick it in your house and keep it in a drawer. Brian regularly goes to the shooting range. I go, we practice. You really have to be responsible and if you have kids, lock it up in a safe. And practice, go once a month or once every few months and just keep practicing so you're familiar.
Yeah.
And if you're a new gun owner, good for you. You should have that to protect yourself. But please just, take some classes like Brian said, even if it's not required of you.
I know.
So you know how to handle it and you know how to be safe.
I've taken classes and I know. I've taken many classes.
And you learned a lot from those.
And so anyway, the reason I bring this up though, since we're getting to that point now where you can carry without a permit, it's got to be concealed. I might start concealed carry next month since you don't need a permit anymore. I think I might finally start doing it. And one of the reasons is there's going to be so many more people carrying. I need to be protected too. I'm trying to think of which one of my guns I should carry. I
think the Glock is nice and it's a little thinner than the 38. Doesn't have that barrel.
Yeah.
And I think that I would rather have a permit with not concealed than have no permit and concealed.
Well, I was really hoping we would have open carry, like they have in a lot of states.
I'd rather have a permit with open carry,
where you can just have a holster on your hip and have the gun.
I think that'd be great.
That's what I was really hoping for.
That would deter so much crime.
But we didn't get that. We have concealed carry without a permit.
Why didn't that pass? You think why wasn't that?
A lot of people don't like it. I
don't get it. I don't get why I don't understand the purpose of having a concealed weapon, I would think having it open carry would deter crime. If people see you got a gun on your hip, they're not going to mess with you.
Well, what a lot of people are afraid of, this one friend of mine, he's a retired police officer, and he says when you're a police officer, you walk around with your gun, but you're trained to protect your gun. And what a lot of people are afraid of, even gun Second Amendment supporters are afraid of, that people will have their guns stolen.
Oh, I see.
When they're out in public, they'll come
them.
up behind them and just grab the gun out of them. And that would happen. That would happen.
So let me ask you, with this new law, could you go to the movies? What can a business, I don't know how they could regulate this. Can a business put up a sign that says no guns allowed? But if it's concealed, how would they know? Could you go to the movies with a gun in your pocket?
No, a lot of businesses have been doing that for years here in Florida. A lot of the malls, no guns allowed, and it's private property, so you can't take a gun even with a permit.
So you can't, even if they have a sign that says it's not allowed.
There may be more businesses that put up signs that say no guns permitted, but that's so stupid, because what you're saying is rob me. This is a gun-free store. All the other ones, people are armed.
And look how many of these mass shootings happen at malls and movie theaters. So they shouldn't do that, because that makes them a target.
Well,
dance clubs.
I got to decide which one of my handguns I'll carry if I carry. My 38 I like because it's small and it'll fit in any pocket.
I'll carry that one.
The 38.
Did you put the Glock in your pocket?
I don't know if I've tried I've got a Glock 48, which I really like. The Glock 48.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's like a regular Glock, which is a really good gun, but it's thinner than the regular Glocks.
Yeah, it's nice and thin.
And it holds fewer rounds, 10. But if I need more than 10 rounds, I'm in trouble.
You can carry an extra clip.
10 are enough.
Just carry an extra clip, then you got 20.
Kathy, if I got to change clips, we're done. If we're in a situation where
you never know.
I use 10 bullets.
If the zombie apocalypse happens, we'll be prepared.
Yeah, but no, I'm not going to say I'll carry all the time, but I think I'll carry.
Like, when
sometimes.
would you feel? I think
on my scooter, when I'm riding my scooter.
So if we go on a road trip, you can put it in your glove box. Would that be totally legal of your car?
I got to check on that. You can't you've got to, there's I'm not going to go through what the rules are, because I don't want to give out misinformation.
Right.
I know what the rule is, but I don't want to say, because I may be off a little bit. There's just because there's a law that says you can carry guns that are concealed, that's concealed on your person. You cannot just have it anyway in your car. I'm not going to tell you the rules on that, because I might be off a little bit.
Then what the hell?
So you guys got to research that on your own. But you just can't have it in a bunch of places in your car because you're in your car. Concealed means on your person. But anyway, guys, I think I'm going to start carrying finally next month when you don't need the permit. That's the one thing Ron DeSantis has done lately.
Well, where are places you would carry it?
I'm not going to tell everybody where, because I'm not always going to be carrying. But sometimes when I'm riding the MAGA Scooter 2.0, I might carry it. You know,
there's somebody in my family that takes it everywhere.
Oh yeah,
they have a concealed. They have like an ankle holster, and they put it under their pants, and they take it. And they have a permit now.
I like to see how fast they can bend over and get that out of the ankle holster.
This person not very fast,
because
you can hide it in your back.
So what are they going to do? They're gonna go down like they're gonna touch their toes, lift their pants up, lift their jeans up.
Well, say they're at a bank and the bank's getting robbed.
I don't know if you can.
They could act like they're tying their shoe.
That doesn't work. No, that's not an ankle holster. Is not a smart idea.
Maybe it's not an ankle holster now. Maybe
idea.
It's on the hip.
That's not a good idea.
So let me ask you real quick: if you were at the bank and
I would not carry my gun in a bank.
Say you had it on you.
I don't even know if you can take it in a bank. I don't know if you can take it in a bank.
Well, just say you're anywhere, at Starbucks or anywhere, and you have it in your pocket, okay? And the place starts getting robbed.
No, you don't take it.
Okay, no, but I'm saying, say you have it, and you're at a place that gets robbed. Would you do anything or be a hero, or would you just sit there and hope you don't get killed?
I would not take the gun out. And if I was in a store that was getting robbed, I would not intervene.
So this would be just for your own personal protection, not to save anybody else.
If they were robbing the store and they pulled a gun out on people and were going to shoot people, then I would pull the gun out.
Okay, then you would do something.
But if somebody comes into a store, typically they want to get in and get out with the money.
Get the money and leave, right?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. No, you don't want to do that.
You don't want to engage.
You don't want to engage unless you have to.
So if you're somewhere publicly and somebody pulls out an AK-40 or a AR-15,
well, that's
you would try to stop.
I would be outmatched if I have my Glock, which is a 9mm, or my 38. A 38 has a very big round in it too. But I would be.
Takes one to the head.
I'd
Boom.
be outgunned with an AR-15.
Not if you shot him in the head, point blank.
No, but they can shoot faster than I would. They already got the gun out. You're outmatched with
unless you get him from behind.
Kathy, do not give people advice on protecting themselves with guns. You don't have no idea what you're talking about. You're gonna. I don't know if I'm going to let you carry.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to let you carry, Kathy.
Okay.
Because these are no.
It's really not up to you.
No, you're getting in situations where you would be escalating.
I'm just giving hypotheticals. Okay.
These are not good ones. All right, guys. On that note, we'll talk to you next time.
Who says you can't heal hunger? In Jojoima, Sierra Leone, there's proof that healing hunger is not just a dream, but a reality. Right now, a group of dedicated individuals have come together with a plan that works. Starting from one household, they're expanding their efforts to benefit the entire community. Their approach is unique, rehabilitating a plantation left to despair. But it's not just about revitalizing the land. It's about creating a how-to model that can help communities around the world. Using climate-sensitive technology and proven practices that actually work, they're healing people of the waste and malnutrition that comes from hunger and give them a chance for education and independence. By supporting this cause, you're empowering individuals to stand up for themselves and fight back against corruption, together breaking the cycle of survival mode and giving people the freedom to express themselves. This incredible group is looking for problem solvers, not complainers, and with your help, they can make a real difference across the planet. Healing hunger in one part of the world heals it everywhere. Join in and saving this devastated plantation. Visit fundraiser.com/crops for Jojoima. That's fundrazr.com/crops for Jojoima and help save a devastated plantation and revive the village of Jojoima. That's fundraiser.com/crops for Jojoima.